All right, they have not specified where the money is going to come from, but a task force for Mayor Rahm Emanuel in Chicago is proposing paying struggling Chicago residents up to $1,000 a month. They can spend it as they wish, whatever they need. Market watcher Jonathan Hoenig, not a fan of this. Maybe he'll spell out a little bit more detail. Tonight on Bulls and Bears, a special guest star performance by Jonathan, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. What do you make of this?
Yeah, well, Neil, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. This is Marxist wealth redistribution. That is what is being proposed here. They're going to take $1,000 from Chicagoans who've earned it and just give it to people who haven't earned it. And Neil, that's evil. There's just no other word for it. That is evil in theory and in practice. When the founders talked about the pursuit of happiness, it was the pursuit. It wasn't the promise that happiness or money or rights or gifts will just be handed to you by others. So this is destructive not only to those taxpayers, Neil, who have their own wealth, their own lives redistributed, but it's actually hurtful. It's harmful to the very citizens, those low-income citizens that city officials or city planners want to help. And there's plenty of evidence to confirm that as well.
Do we know the income level that it taps out at? I mean, it's for poor Chicagoans, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's for poor Chicagoans, and they'll set some completely arbitrary mechanism, Neil, but I can promise you what the result will be, because we know this has been tried over and over again. I mean, it's even been tried here in the United States. Back in the 1970s, the government had something called the negative income tax, essentially exactly what we're talking about here. The net result was that people worked less hours and spent more time on unemployment. Or even more recently, Canada, Finland, they've all tried these universal basic income schemes, Neil. They fail, and they fail long and short term more than anything because they destroy people's self-esteem. As I said, somebody giving you $1,000 means nothing. It doesn't help you get that job, get off the mat. So here in Chicago, we've seen it, Neil. We've seen it over decades. The welfare state has destroyed so many areas of the South Side, the West Side that are struggling now. So what they're proposing is more welfare state. It's only going to have a negative effect.
I was reading your local press, Jonathan. They said it's coming from existing funds. I didn't know Chicago had existing funds, but where would the money come from?
Well, I mean, it's going to come from taxation, Neil. I mean, already Illinois and then specifically Chicago, our finances are a mess. Decades and decades of mismanagement and corruption. So we know, and in fact, Neil, that's one of the reasons why Finland ultimately abandoned their experiment. Same thing with Canada. They said simply it was fiscally unsustainable. So certainly Chicago doesn't have the money, Neil. But honestly, even if we did have the money, I mean, if Chicago really wanted to help these people who, without any money, they would stop, for example, keeping Walmart out. I mean, for years and years, the city did everything they could to keep Walmart from coming in and giving some of these young people jobs to get them off the mat. So all these welfare programs, Neil, they've hurt these people most specifically intended to help. And this effort, this latest effort, universal basic income, is just another example of that.
But, to your point, it's not just isolated to Chicago. I mean, obviously, Kamala Harris is among those signing up for this $5,000 to $6,000 a month to give to some Americans. I don't know what the cutoff level is there. It's a plan endorsed, I believe, by Cory Booker in New Jersey as well. What's going on here?
Well, I mean, I think I can't explain it, Neil, other than the continuing rise of socialism and this sense that, well, you have a right to health care, right to education, or even a right to an income. Well, that income is produced by someone else. And the proper understanding of a right is that you have a right to act. Again, that's why the founders talked about the pursuit of happiness. Every American has a right to get out there and pursue his happiness, to pursue his wealth. But to just sit back and expect that the government society is going to give it to you, and the long-lasting implications are really destructive. As I said, it destroys these people's incentive, their self-esteem, their willingness and ability to work, to gain new skills. So I think it comes from a benevolent place. Well, we want to help those in need, but truly, teach a man to fish if you want to help them. Get them that first job at Walmart or pumping gas or anything, but to just give people money that redistributed from others doesn't help anyone, and it only creates more misery all around.
You sound like Howard Schultz is a critic of these type of plans. He's going nowhere fast, certainly as a Democrat, so he's pondering an independent run with this type of message. How far do you think he'll go?
I hope he goes far, Neil. We need more really varied discussion in the political scene, especially on these local issues. And more than anything, I hope Howard Schultz or even any of the other candidates take a principled stand. It's wrong. You have a right to your own money that you earned. It's not collective public money just to be, redistributed to anyone, whether it's those in need or steel workers or farmers or anyone else. To me, that's Americanism, Neil. Property rights. You work for $1, you own that dollar. That's what'll save this country.
All right, I'll put you down as a maybe on the plan. Not a big fan for the time being. Thank you. Look forward to seeing you on Bulls and Bears.